Ladies and gentlemen, the theme for this conference is Power of IP, the Gateway to Growth. And this beautiful city of Mumbai, I have been several times to India, but never before in Mumbai. I do not regret one single moment of all my stays here in India. Mumbai is very well known as the financial, commercial and entertainment capital of India, and it is of course the most appropriate place to discuss this subject. India's accession to the Protocol of Madrid is clearly a good example of accession of IP as a gateway to growth. As from mid-2013, foreign companies can protect their trademarks in India in a much easier and more efficient way. WIPO statistics prove that this is a big success. In the past 18 months, India has been designated in more than 12,000 international trademark applications and vice versa. India companies now have a unique gateway to trademark protection abroad, including in Europe. This is good news because IP protection stimulates innovation and contributes to the economic, according to a recent study made by the European Patent Office and the Harmonization Office in Alicante. IP-intensive industries generate more than a quarter of employment and more than a third of economic activity. So when it comes to trademark protection, ladies and gentlemen, the world is more and more becoming our playground. For professionals who are active in IP, which all of us present here today are, this is an important thing to realize. We can no longer afford to only be specialized in our own domestic trademark protection, but need to have at least some basic knowledge of trademark protection in other jurisdictions. An international conference like this offers a unique opportunity to share this knowledge. 20 minutes is, of course, much too short to discuss all European developments, so I will focus on some key issues and actualities. As you probably all know, in Europe there are two systems to obtain trademark protection. A community trademark, the CTM, provides a right for the whole EU, and national trademarks provide rights for the country or countries concerned. Both the EU and the different European countries can be designated under the Madrid Protocol. Both systems have their specific advantages and disadvantages, and I will explore a few of them. Actually, before I start, I must make a minor clarification. I have just said that there are two systems, the CTM and the trademarks, but that is not really entirely true because there's one exception. The three Benelux countries, Luxembourg, Belgium and Holland, have joined forces and created a single legislation, the Benelux Convention on Intellectual Property. And this convention is being executed by a single intergovernmental organization, the Benelux Office for Intellectual Property. The Benelux trademark is thus in fact not a national trademark, but for reasons of simplicity, when I talk about national trademarks, of course, I will also mean the Benelux trademarks. Since the EU currently consists of 28 member states, there are 26 different national trademark systems and offices. Plus, the OHIM in Alicante, the total amount of trademark offices active in Europe is 27. And I will focus this presentation on two questions. What are the differences between the various systems, and what are the reasons to choose a specific system? Regarding the differences, let me start with a conclusion which probably will be reassuring for companies that seek protection for their trademarks in the EU. The differences are getting smaller and smaller. In this respect, there are three pillars that together form the European trademark and design network. The first one regards the harmonization of legislation. We call it the trademark package. The second one is the common databases and tools under the Cooperation Fund, and the third is the Convergence Program, which intention is to harmonize the different practices. The first pillar regarding the harmonization of legislation. All material aspects of the trademark law, the definition of a trademark, the scope of protection, the criteria for invalidity or revocation have already been harmonized during the last decades by several European directives, also concerning enforcement. Further harmonization also on a procedural level is imminent. And in March 2013, the European Commission has launched the so-called trademark package, consisting of proposals for both an amendment of the Community Trademark Regulation and a new directive to harmonize the laws of the different member states. And I was hoping to be able, and it was the reason why I accepted to be a speaker today, I was hoping to be able to present you some breaking news just before Christmas. A trilogue, that is a meeting between the representatives of the European Parliament, the European Commission, and the Council of Ministers, was planned to finalize the discussion. Unfortunately, the Italian presidency, despite all the possible efforts, did not manage to conclude the discussions, and this trilogue has been postponed. Latvia is now the president of the European Council, and I heard yesterday evening from a colleague of my office that the intention of Latvia is to close the discussions on the 24th of February. So I am afraid there is no breaking news yet. But I can, however, give you a sneak preview on some of the things that are likely to be in the trademark package. First, the representation of a trademark does no longer necessarily have to be graphical. This makes the registration of non-traditional trademarks easier. As a follow-up, it is of course important that practical arrangements be made on which means of representations are acceptable. Think, for instance, an MP3 file for sound marks. The IP translator case will be codified in the trademark directive. This means that the applicant must identify the goods and services for which he claims protection in a clear and precise way, and that general terms will be interpreted as including only the goods and services that are clearly covered by the literal meaning of the term. Every trademark office must provide in the future administrative procedures for opposition and cancellation, the latter on both absolute and relative grounds. Right owners will be happy to learn that, according to the latest proposal, these procedures must be efficient and expeditious. If a procedure is based on an earlier trademark that has been registered for more than 5 years, the defendant can demand the genuine use be proven. Another thing that will probably change concerns goods in transit. The existing situation follows from the Philips Nokia case. If goods are in transit, right holders cannot claim infringement unless they prove that the goods are intended to be put on sale in the European Union. The European Commission proposed a much stricter approach, namely that a trademark owner can always prevent third parties from bringing goods into EU customs territory, even when the goods are only in transit. This proposal has led to intensive discussions and lobbying from, on the one hand, large trademark owners who want to be able to fight infringement in every possible way, and on the other hand, the transport sector, which of course has an interest in the free flow of goods until they reach their final destination. And as a compromise, it has been proposed to reverse the onus of proof. According to the latest proposal, right holders can claim infringement if goods are in transit unless the defendant proves that the goods can be freely put on the market in the country of the final destination. And the recitals add to this that appropriate measures should be taken with a view to ensuring the smooth transit of generic medicines. And a final very important aspect, especially for the Director General of the National Office, an important aspect of the trademark package is that it provides a basis for sustainable coexistence of the European trademark and the national marks. The proposal for the CTM contains a legal framework and rules for funding cooperation between OHIM and the national offices. It also contains rules for redistribution of a part of OHIM's annual revenues to national offices or other relevant authorities as a means of compensation of the extra work they have as functional parts in the EU trademark system. I strongly believe that this is good for users. As I will explain in the second part of the presentation, there's a public interest for having well-functioning trademark system in Europe, both on EU level and on national level. The second and the third pillars of the European Trademark and Design Network are the so-called Cooperation Fund and the Convergence Program. I must be short because time is running out. The Cooperation Fund mainly aims at building common databases and tools. A well-known example is the Trademark View, a database which currently contains more than 24 million trademarks. 24 million trademarks registered by 37 participating offices, allowing searches to be performed online and free of charge. Another example is TM Class, a database for classification purposes, which currently contains more than 65,000 different terms for goods and services, which are accepted by the participating offices. And to this program, not only the European offices are participating, but also WIPO and several offices from non-European countries, such as USA, Russia, Japan, Mexico, and the Republic of Korea. And the last example of the Cooperation Fund project that I would like to mention is the future software package, in which electronic tools are being created to streamline the registration process both for users, e-opposition, e-communication, and so on, and back-office tools for the receiving trademarks that handles the application. And the vision of the Convergence Program, the third pillar of the design network, is to establish and communicate clarity, legal certainty, quality, and usability for both applicant and office. This will be achieved by working together to establish common practices. So far, important progress has been made on both absolute and relative grounds for refusal, where the concept of likelihood of confusion has been elaborated. Another important result has been achieved on the acceptability of classification terms, also in the light of the already mentioned IP translator case. I think it is needless to say that I strongly support these activities. But what are the reasons to choose a specific system? If the systems are all the same, what are the main reasons to choose either for the CTM or for the national? I have tried to make a short list of reasons why users might choose one system regarding the costs, the efficiency, the handling speed, accuracy, accessibility, languages, the chances of success, and finally a very important question regarding what protection is really needed for my undertaking. In my more than 30 years of experience, I have learned that the costs of official fees probably play the least important part in the choice of a specific system. Efficiency and handling speed, however, seem to play a more important role, together with things like accuracy and accessibility. And I think that was also one of the reasons why our office had been chosen by magazine IP as the best office of the world. Why? Because we are offering a registration of a trademark within 24 hours. Statistics show that this is certainly a selling argument. Languages might at first sight seem like a detail. I think, however, that they also play an important role in choosing one system to another. If all the communications you receive and all the letters you send must be translated, this has an important effect on the costs, on the different costs. And my office works with 3 working languages. We have 2 official languages, the French language, the Dutch language, but we have added a 3rd language last year, and almost now 10 to 15% of our applications are made in English. The chances of success are, of course, an important argument. Before a trademark application is filed, it is very important to assess its availability and perform searches in the register or registers concerned. Naturally, the risk of opposition is higher if the amount of earlier rights is larger. So the opposition rates are lower, and therefore the chances of success are higher in a smaller jurisdiction than in a large jurisdiction. The final point, what protection is needed? In my view, it is the most crucial point, and I think the answer to this question is quite simple. You need protection in the territory where you are active. In other words, I think the trademark footprint of an undertaking should cover but not exceed its real commercial needs. These commercial needs depend on where the trademark is being used or is intended to be used within a reasonable period of time. This brings us to the question of the genuine use, on which the European Court of Justice has issued a very important ruling, the Onel case, which arose from an opposition decision rendered by our office. In this case, the European Court of Justice had underlined that the relevant territory for genuine use is the territory for which protection is sought, so for the EU for a CTM, and the territory of a member state for a national mark. It states that it is, and I quote, "It's reasonable to expect that a community trademark should be used in a larger area than a national trademark." I totally agree with that decision, and to illustrate why, I will return again to the map of the EU. The European Union, and I will have finished in 2 minutes, the European Union is not a single country. Although the free movement of goods, services, capital and people have created a single internal mark, it is and remains a melting pot of currently 28 different sovereign states with their own government, with their own history, with their own language, with their own culture and so on. There are 24 official languages of the EU and probably much more local languages and dialects spoken by the population. And this situation is also reflected in the commercial activities. Although a lot of companies are active on a European scale, the number of companies that are only active in their home country is and remains large. And also big companies that are active on a European or even a worldwide scale sometimes, very often I would say, offer their goods and services in different countries under different marks, for example, for linguistic or cultural reasons. So if we go back to the map of the EU, as you can see, I have added a red arrow. And this is the country where I was born, the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg. It is one of the smallest countries of the EU. Luxembourg has a population of around 500,000 people, which is around 0.08% of the EU. In terms of area, it represents even less, 0.005%. If a company that only uses its trademark in Luxembourg would be able to protect it as a CTM, this would give him an exclusive right for the whole EU, so he could even block the whole EU market, including the other 99.99% of it where he is not active. In my opinion, this would really be excessive. Let's not forget that the trademark right is an exclusive right, unlimited in time. Of course, you have to use it. So if an Indian company, for instance, produces cars for the EU market, I would certainly recommend it to file an international application designating the EU. However, if it produces packaging material for tulips to be used only in the Netherlands, or fertilizers for wine grapes only to be used in France on the French market, I would strongly advise it to designate the specific country or countries concerned. Ladies and gentlemen, I could go on, but my time has gone over and I have come to the end of my presentation. I hope that this short overview of trademark developments in Europe has given food for thought, and I thank you very much for your attention.